Happy Wednesday, everyone. We're here for another edition of Wednesdays with Wendy. This is April, and April is Financial Literacy Month. So, all month, I'm going to be talking about taxes. Today, we're going to learn about filling out the W 4. That is the form that tells your payroll processor how much to withhold in federal income tax, which will have a direct effect on whether you get a refund or owe money on April 15th. But before we get into that, if you're new to me, my name is Wendy Kane. I'm the owner of Kane Accounting and Financial Coaching. I do bookkeeping and payroll for independent contractors and small businesses so that you can have peace of mind at tax time and throughout the rest of the year. Okay, Form W-4. If you have applied for a job and been accepted, in order to start working, they have made you fill out a Form W-4. This is the form that lists how much you want withheld from your paycheck every month. And this is the federal form. Your state will probably have a different form. And I'm not going to talk about states right now because there are 50 of them and I don't have time for that. Okay, so what I'm going to do today is actually share my screen so that you can see the form that I'm talking about, because it will make more sense if you can see the lines I'm talking about while I go over them. So bear with me while I figure out the fun tech of sharing this screen. There we go. Still always amazing when it works, isn't it? Okay, so back in 2020, it's been 5 years ago now, which is just crazy. The IRS redid the Form W-4. If you remember back pre-pandemic, in the before times, the W-4 had a section on there for allowances, and you had to figure out how many allowances to claim. That has gone away. Those are no longer done. This is the way they do it. It's supposed to be a little bit more accurate, and in some ways it is, and in some ways it isn't. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. So, this is Form W-4. If you look here, there's step one that's pretty self-explanatory. Name, address, and then you have to your social security number. That's the most important part. And then you choose whether you are single or married filing separately, married filing jointly, or if you're head of household. And that is whatever filing status you're going to use on your tax return. So you check one of those boxes. Now, to start a job, all you have to fill out is section 1, name, address, tax status, and then we're going to scroll down here, section 5 or step 5, sign here. You would just sign your name and put your date. That is all that your payroll processor needs in order to process payroll. There are tables. This is, scroll down here to the last few pages that no one ever reads. There are tables showing, how much your job, like if you get paid $50,000 a year, and of course these are not exactly the same tables, but it'll tell you how much is going to be withheld based on your filing status, though not exactly. I'm confusing you, I know. This is for step 4, but this is just an example of the tax tables you can find at irs.gov. I think I mentioned it in a previous video. If you are having trouble sleeping, you can go look up tax tables at the IRS. They are there. No one does that except me and a few other nerdy accountants that I know. Okay, let's see. So to start a job, all you have to fill out is step 1 and step 5. You put your name, address, social security number, your tax status, and you sign it. The software will then calculate, based on your filing status, how much it thinks it should withhold every paycheck. Okay, you can do that. That's the easiest way. The problem is, very rarely are any of us just one single person with one W-2. I know some people are, That's their entire tax situation. But lots of people are married, lots of people have children, lots of people have income from other sources, and you want to make sure that you're filling this out to account for some of those situations. So that brings us to step two. Step two, multiple jobs or if your spouse works. Okay, if you have more than one job, you're going to want to look at step two and follow the instructions for it. Um, if you have more than one job at a time. If you are married and your spouse is also on W-2 payroll, you also want to look at this because the withholding may not be accurate if you don't. This is where it says use the multiple jobs worksheet on page 3. So you would go down here, and these worksheets, don't be scared of them. They're pretty easy to follow. I mean, you do have to read some words and pull out a calculator, but it's not too bad. It tells you put it on only one W-4. If you have 2 jobs, use the higher paying job row. That was on those tables down there. So you just follow the instructions and then you come up with an amount here on line 4 of this section and enter it in step 4C of form W-4 for the highest paying job. All right, so if you're married, both of you are going to fill that out, and then whoever makes the most money is going to come up to let's see. Oh, it did say complete steps 3 to 4. You can check this box. Step 4, you can put other adjustments, other income not from jobs. We'll get to that in a second. Anyway, follow the instructions. Obviously, I don't have them memorized, but that will help you avoid having too little tax withheld. I believe I shared in a previous video about an employee of one of my clients. She has made for 2024, she made about $30,000, but 0 federal taxes were withheld. That's because for the way she filled it out, the software thought that was her only income. And she was married filing joint, and the standard deduction is like 29,000. So if you make 30 and you get to deduct 29 of it, you're not going to owe tax on $1,000. So that's why the program didn't take any taxes out. But that didn't take into account her other tax situation. And that's why it's important to get this part right, because you don't want to end up filing your taxes and finding out you didn't have any tax withheld, because that's a scary place to be. Okay. So that's what you would do on step 2. If you hold more than one job, or if you're married and your spouse is working at a W-2 job, you can follow the instructions and figure out what to put on box 2 and also step 4. That's where you would enter the actual amount. Okay. Step 3, if you have children under the age of 17 and your total income is $200,000 or less, or $400,000 or less if you're married filing jointly, you can claim a child credit on your taxes. And so a credit, remember, a deduction is going to lower the amount of income you're taxed on. A credit is 1-to-1 how much tax you pay. If the government decides you owe, say, $10,000 in tax, and you've got one child, that's $2,000, you get to take that $10,000 and bump it down to $8,000. It's direct 1-to-1 off of the amount of tax you owe. So those are great credits to have. So what you want to do is fill this out if you have children under the age of 17, and then other dependents is $500, the children are $2,000, and calculate all that and then add it here on line 3, and that will tell the software system to deduct less, to have less withheld, because it's accounting for those credits you're going to get that are going to lower your tax liability. Okay, step 4. This is optional, other adjustments, but this is a very important step. And this is how you're going to adjust it if you just need to adjust some things. Okay, other income not from jobs. Let's say your spouse has a W-2 job, but you because you're watching my video, you're self-employed. You own your own business. And let's say you're a sole proprietor or a single member LLC. So you are not on W-2 payroll. Just you make some money, and then when you need money from your business in your personal side, you just take a draw from your business. Well, as we all know, there's self-employment tax on that income, and you don't get to deduct payroll because you're not on payroll. So what your spouse may want to do is come here to step 4 and under section A, other income not from jobs. That would, and there's also like it says interest, dividends, retirement income. It could be self-employment income. They can put an amount here, and that will have more tax withheld from their paycheck to cover the tax that's not being withheld on your self-employment income. Okay, because unless you send in estimated payments, which you can do, but just in general, unless you do something, you know, you're not paying taxes on that income. A lot of people come to me, and when they first start, when they go out on their own, because they're like, "Oh, there's no taxes being taken out. How do I handle this?" And this is one of the strategies to do. If you're married and your spouse works, you can have them have more withheld from their paycheck to pay for the taxes you're going to owe from on your self-employment income. Okay, there's also deductions if you expect to claim deductions other than the standard deduction. If you itemize deductions and it's going to lower your tax liability even more, you can put an amount on line B. And then the most important one here is C, extra withholding. This is an amount. The best place to get this amount is from the tax withholding estimator that the IRS has on their website. And I will put a link in the comments to that. This is where you will tell it, I know when I put married filing joint and this, the software calculates this amount, but I need more than that because I've got other situations. So you will decide how much more with each paycheck that you want withheld, and you'll put that amount on line 4C. And that will help you avoid having too little tax withheld. And as we talked about in a week or two ago on how to pay less taxes, this is going to help you have more withheld so that in April or whenever your tax return is done, you don't have to worry about owing money because you've had more withheld with each paycheck. Okay, speaking of, I want to finish up here and mention that the personal income tax deadline is April 15th. That's coming up here in about 13 days. You either need to file your tax return by that date or file an extension. If you file an extension, you can get it, the deadline will be extended until October 15th for you to file your tax return. But listen, it does not extend the amount of time to pay. If you think you may owe taxes this year for whatever reason, that amount of tax you owe is still due by April 15th, even if you file an extension. So if you're afraid you may owe, or you just want to make sure that you're not going to owe, you may want to go ahead and send in a payment before April 15th. You can send in one with the extension, or you can send it in just separately. I will also put a link to the IRS Direct Pay in the comments because that is how you can pay money directly to the IRS before April 15th so that you don't get a penalty for not paying by the due date. Okay, that was a quick rundown, go back to this, of the W-4. One last caveat I will mention. If you came here looking for me to tell you exactly what numbers to put on each line, I'm sorry, but I can't do that. The only person who can tell you that is your tax preparer. Your tax preparer will have your full tax situation, and they can tell you exactly how much to put on each line of the W-4. If you don't have a tax preparer or you want to figure it out yourself, you can use the withholding estimator. And that tool is really a very good tool. It will help you figure out how much you need to have withheld each check to get the result in April that you want. And there's a slider. We're going to go over that next week, and I'll show you how to decide. There's a slider. You can say, yes, I want a refund. No, I want to owe, because it all depends on who you are and how you view things. Okay, that is it for this week. I hope everyone has a great week. Get your taxes filed or file an extension. It's coming up. Talk to y'all later.